Welcome. I'd like to call this council meeting to order. Councillor Bean provides her with directions. Please remain standing if you're able for the land acknowledgement, a moment of silent reflection, and the singing of O Canada. And the only request I have when we get to the O Canada part, if we sing loud and proud, so the men and women that represented us so very well in Italy, for them and our loved one, or their loved ones to hear us. So let's begin with the land acknowledgement. Thank you, Councillor Henderson. So let's begin with the land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that Stratford is positioned on the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and the neutral Andawanese peoples. As we gather, we are reminded that the city of Stratford is situated on treaty land that is steeped in rich Indigenous history and home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples today. We acknowledge that Stratford is situated on land that was shared between the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, and the neutral Andawanese peoples. We are grateful to have the opportunity to live, work, and play on this land. Thank you. Please be seated. Please allow me to share the respect and Stratford spirit. The Corporation of the City of Stratford is committed to providing quality service to all members of the public, council, and our employees. Our goal is to promote a safe, healthy, respectful, inclusive, and positive environment. We have a responsibility to treat people with respect by creating safe and respectful spaces. It is the city's expectation that all present will be respectful. And clerk, the meeting is yours.
Through you, worship. Item 2 is declarations of pecuniary interest. Are there any declarations? And if so, please state the general nature thereof.
Noted.
Item 3 is adoption of the minutes, and there is a motion that the minutes of the regular meeting of council of the Corporation of the City of Stratford, dated February 9th, be adopted as printed.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Niger, second by Councillor Henderson. Any discussion or comments on the minutes as printed? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed to any? That's unanimous and carried.
Item 4 is adoption of the addenda, and earlier today an addenda was circulated to add a delegation and an item to the consent agenda. And there is a motion that the addenda to the regular agenda of council and standing committees dated February 23rd be added to the agenda as printed.
Moved by Councillor Bass, second by Councillor Sabat. Any discussion on those addenda items? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed to any? That's unanimous and carried.
Item 5 is the report of the committee of the whole in camera session, and that session was canceled. Moving to item 6, hearings of deputations and presentations. The delegation listed on the addenda will be considered under item 9.1. Moving to item 7, orders of the day. Item 7.1 is the official plan review information update, and the supervisor of planning, policy, and placemaking is here to present the update.
Thank you, and welcome, Mr. Wilson. The floor is yours whenever you're ready.
Thank you, your worship. Good evening, good council, staff, and those of the attendants. Thanks for joining us. My name is Stuart Wilson, supervisor of policy placement. Good to say here. Stratford. During this evening, I will discuss the official plan review. For this meeting, staff prepared a report that provides a status update on the official plan review and a request for additional funding, $54,255. The requested amount is to fund the remaining consultant work. For context, the city's official plan establishes planning development policies. This includes where to build housing, what our growth will look like, and how concerns are conserved lands for important priorities such as health of the environment and heritage building. The official plan also serves the basis for other provisions of law, like the zoning bylaw. Under section
Pause for a moment, and Councilor will know that just to make your way through, so come on through, so you don't miss out on the presentation. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Under section 26 of the Planning Act, Council must review the official plan on a set schedule to better reflect provincial and local changes. Following adoption and provincial approval, the city will then pursue other items in conformity with the official plan, including the zoning bylaw. Stratford's last comprehensive update to the official plan was in 2015. Since then, the province has made an unprecedented number of changes, especially in the last few years. The biggest of which is the new provincial planning statement 2024, which took effect on October 20th, 2024. There have also been several legislative changes since 2023, how we plan for housing, areas of employment, development approvals, and other matters. In 2023, we retained consultant WSP for the sort of official plan review. The city tasked WSP with producing forecasting and land use assessment recommendations and general assistance. In 2025, though, the official plan review slowed down. Okay, so in November 2025, I took the role of supervisor of planning, policy, and placemaking. Since starting with the city, we have been actively reviewing the official plan. We have been updating draft policies to match provincial direction and aligning with Stratford's newer plans and studies. Meanwhile, WSP is updating the policy discussion papers. So, although this work has been anticipated for some time, we fortunately have now benefit to do this review after many legislative changes have already come into effect. For instance, the province has narrowed their definition of areas of employment to more closely correspond to heavy industrial uses. This change can afford the city further flexibility to redesignate lands to better fit Stratford's responsibility goals. Once the updated policy discussion papers are ready, staff will hold open houses and continue outreach, critical, inform the final details of the official plan review. WSP is targeting completion of the updated policy discussion papers by the second quarter of 2026. On engagement, we have and continue to be active The city held a statutory public meeting on December 7th, 2023. Staff conducted a public pop-up at the farmers market on November 16th, 2024. We've also received feedback through Engage Stratford. Through these various channels, the public message has been consistent. People want housing options with a variety of demands. Residents understand and appreciate the growth, but want to preserve traffic qualities. People also want to enhance our amenities and transportation options. Excellent. Regarding the timing of our review, there are required steps and timelines we must follow. Unlike many official plan amendments, the province is the approval authority for the new official plan and official plan review, not the city. Additionally, this year is the municipal election year scheduled for Monday, October 26, 2026. If we do not reach council adoption before the election date, the practical target will shift to early 2027 to give the next council time to get oriented. We are aiming to keep this work on track and avoid delays. Next slide. In 2023, council approved the consultant for $227,025, inclusive of HST. This was intended to be funded 90% from development purpose, specifically growth studies reserve fund, and 10% from internal studies reserve. Since then, our consultant WSP has confirmed we need additional funding to update the work to match the current provincial planning direction to update the growth projections out to 2056. The additional amount would be $54,255. Through your workshop, I will put on. Oh, sorry. Next slide. Oh yeah, that's it. Through your workshop post on this slide with the recommendation that council approved additional funding of $54,255 for the official plan review. Thank you for giving my presentation, your worship. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you for the presentations. Questions from council? Councilor, go ahead, please.
Thank you, through the chair. Thank you very much for the update. Much anticipated report, and we're looking forward to seeing it. Actually, before I read your report, I didn't realize how much the province's changes have kind of kept us scrambling to try to keep up with this document. So, thank you for persisting with that. One of the questions that I had, and this stems back a long time, and I think the answer is yes, but one of the things that we were looking for in the past was data on what exists now. So in other words, housing. So we had discussions about density, and then we had targets for density in the official plan. And when we were trying to figure out, okay, how close are we to this target so that we know where we're heading with the density, we didn't know. We didn't have any like historical data. So my question, I guess, is, as part of this official plan review, is there also some data collection for historical data, so we know where we're at now, and then we know where we're headed with forward?
Sure. Thank you for your worship. As part of the review, the consultants conduct what's called a land needs assessment. That's a fulsome review of building permits over what types, how many, number of units, square footage, to figure out the trend of how we're growing, but also the land consumption. What areas, although notwithstanding they're in private ownership, what properties, such as commercial properties with big parking lots, are capable of accommodating density, but also what types of zoning amendments have we consider, what types of site plans, all those things. So what they do is it's literally a land needs assessment. How much land do you need, and what type of growth will we be targeting for? Watson is the sub-consultant. So council will be familiar with Watson by doing development charges, type studies, and other types of municipal reports. They are working on our official plan in that regard. They did a land needs assessment early in the process. And when the review slowed down, I felt that it was important for them to update their numbers. So what they're doing, subject to council approval of the recommendation, they will revisit to make sure what we've done in the last year and a half, 2 years, and make sure that when we go back with recommendations to council, those growth targets and those that land needs is current. In essence, we can't be criticized for making a decision on 2-year-olds type of data. So yes, we are working on that, and yes, we will have some data in that regard. There has been a report prepared. We have been relying on it somewhat internally and informally, so we know generally how the city is growing, and it is growing. We hope to have more updated and accurate statistics, in essence, from the last 2 years or so, shortly from the consultants.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further? Councilor McKay.
To the chair, thank you for the update. My concern is the continuing this into the next council and then having another period of time where knowing how long it took is taking me to understand how the city is run, that it will also run into another council who has a considerable learning curve to get into. Is there any, I understand there's a 110-day consultation process. Is there any way to get this in before the end of this council?
We're striving for that.
Any other comments? I have a question. When we talk about the affordable housing and the 60th percentile, you do a little bit of explanation on that piece. I think it is at the bottom of page 21 of the report we see, and it's the percentile of local renters and owners' income. Just a little bit of a different way of defining, I guess, affordable housing. You sleep there or something.
Very mild second page report.
So. Yeah, I'm pulling that right now. Previous there, I would just say that the affordable housing is what we should define. So it may be the point. Do you want to speak further?
Yeah, through your worship. What's referred to here is the council often hears is there's a number of different definitions of affordable housing. This one is referencing the Development Charter Act. So there's different legislation that refers to affordable housing. None of them are always or the exact same. So this is from the Development Charter Act, which is a target for affordable housing, but only as far as that legislation is concerned. Development Charter.
Thank you. Councilor Seth.
Thank you. Just regarding the recommendation, I just had a question. Is the question of the funds being provided for the consultant, is that a difference of having what we need? You talked about going back and updating sort of what's already been completed, or is it something that we have the capacity for on like staffing, if it would just take longer, or is it a question of those things wouldn't happen or they would with the extra funding?
I'll take it over that. 3 years. So as council will be aware, maybe less so Stuart, he's new to the corporation. Stuart's in my report had a number of fronts on there. So there's been a number of changes from the province, the legislative changes. There's been staffing and resource shortages internally within the city, but also the consultants themselves have had planning changes with them. So we do have a consultant working on there, but we had a change in planners assigned to the project there as well. So planning shortage and so we are still working with WSP, and we still want to work with WSP to finish the work. I think it's important that they do finish the work. What we are doing is, I think what we were finding is, it's not as easy to say that a consultant will farm out a professional plan review to a consultant, and we can go on with our own business and they will come back with a plan. There's a lot of work both externally that they do providing recommendations, and I think you'll see, council see soon when you do actually see the discussion papers coming, they are fulsomely prepared, professionally prepared, and engaging documents full of recommendations and insights that they are doing. But they also need staff on our side to be giving them the information that they need, whether it's building permits, whether it's consulting with other divisions about various topics. So to answer your question, I think it is a combination of we need to continue with the outside consultant, as I spoke to my previous comment. Watson and Associates is working on the land needs assessment. We can't just stop that now and take it over internally. That's something that they have specialized experts on their end who can put forth. And if there's any sort of contention, whether there's whether we have third parties or private property owners or developers questioning the outcomes of the land needs, it'll be the consultants that will be going to if it occurs to the OLT to defend their justification and recommendations. So I think it's important that we continue with the consultants, WSP and our consultant Watson. But we are fortunate to have staff like Stuart who can be internally and posting the consultation and engagement.
Thank you. Anything further? Run that for your presentation. Clerk, I believe we have a recommendation. The motion attached to this item.
Through your worship, yes, that's correct. So the staff recommendation is that the additional funding requirement of $54,255 for the official plan review be approved and funded from the plans and studies and the development charges growth studies reserve fund.
Moved by Councilor Burback, second by Councilor McKay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed with any, that's unanimously carried. Next item.
Item 7.2 is the request to waive or reduce signage fees for the Not Okay campaign. And there's a staff recommendation that a reduction of the advertising fees charged to Optimism Place Women's Shelter and Support Services for displaying the Not Okay campaign on rink boards and digital sign to $500 be approved, and that the remaining amount be transferred from the Community Grants Reserve through the Community Grants Program.
Councilor Henderson.
I'd like to move it, except that I would, where it says digital sign 20 be approved. Because they would have probably already had fees making up the signs and different things, a lot of costs, and this is an important campaign.
So you're asking for the $500 to be stricken, is that?
Yes,
A second?
basically will cover the costs.
Seconder for that. Councilor Burback will second. Discussion on them. Councilor B.
Thank you. I guess go against motion, and it's be clear, it's not that this organization does not do good works. That's not why I'm not in support of this. My reason for not supporting this is very simple. We have tasked staff with the goal of creating revenue through selling of these advertising spots. Should we not be holding to that goal? We are simply reducing the opportunity for this city to create revenue. I think it's great for organizations to get opportunities to market about their organizations and great work they do in our community. However, it's not on rink boards or if we do this for one organization, we're gonna have to do them for all. If we've already taken revenue, we'll be sure to be getting people calling us and saying, hey, you did it for them, you need to do it for us. I think it's a very slippery slope and one for which I do not wish to go down. I believe that there are other ways that we can look to support this organization, but it's not through free advertising.
Thank you, Councilor B. Other comments? Councilor Burback and then Henderson. Go ahead.
Thank you through the chair. Obviously I support the motion because I seconded it. I understand what Councillor Beatty is saying. I'm wondering if there might be some way that we could look at what kind of space do we have for advertising, and perhaps there's a policy that can be created that there's a percentage of those that would go to community organizations. So that would then allow a certain amount of the advertising to be guaranteed. Like most of the advertising would be income generating, and then there would be a smaller percentage that would be used for community, because it is a community space, and I think it's a great idea to be able to have advertising for this type of campaign.
Other comments? Councilor McKay, go ahead, please.
Through the chair, I would have agreed with where Councilor Burback is going with this. is there a way of coming up with a designation of certain amount of our space for community organizations that are not-for-profits? And I do understand that we have tasked our staff with creating revenue for the city, but this particular campaign and this particular organization, given the context of violence against women, is something that we should be supporting this particular program.
Thank you. Councillor Hunt and then Johnson.
Thank you. Through the mayor, I think I support the motion. I think there's a different pathway for the future to maybe get in the same spot, which is to have this organization or others like this apply for a community grant and then use the money to buy the advertising. I don't know if that's a little cleaner, and because it would run through the grants program, it lets the grants committee look at the entirety of grants in making decisions about where that money goes. And this seems to make a little bit of an end run around it, and I know that we've done this a fair bit, so I don't fault this pathway, but I think it would be cleaner if we went the other way.
Councillor Henderson.
Good Mayor, I just wanted to say that, I'm not sure if the Director of Community Services knows this off the top of his hat, but most of the advertising that I've seen at the ring is, for businesses. They're trying to promote people to come and buy their things, whether it's insurance or car parts or whatever it is, right? And, some campaigns are coming forward that, whether it's victims of violence or things like that, I think that the city can support those, and I agree with the idea of going to the community grants, but a lot of times these things come up and you don't even know they're coming until say maybe a couple months before, right? So, yeah, I think it's important to kind of look at.
Go ahead.
Through the chair, a couple of comments I'll make on this one's a little bit unique because it is coming through our community safety and well-being plan, which we as a partner fund that. So what would happen in this case is these expenditures in this municipality, along with our other partner municipalities, is being funded through the community safety and well-being plan, which then is funded by municipalities. So if we charge the $5,000, we're paying for it one way or the other, it's a portion of. And what we noticed as well is, and that's why in the report, we chose the number $500, which was comparable to what the other municipalities are all charging on this program as well. So that's kind of where the numbers come from, and where this one's a little bit more unique than some others. The other piece is the way the resolution's been drafted. It will fully fund the community services department through the community grant process. It just hasn't gone through the process, which we all agree that that's the right process, and that's why I was putting the price in this place. Those are just one of those situations that's a little bit what we've seen in the past. So there's a couple of comments.
Thank you. Councillor Sapp.
Thank you. I just wanted to, I agree with a lot of the discussion, and I support the motion on the floor. I think it's, whether we arrive this by having an allotted amount of space or through council, I support this, and I think it's a good organization to be supporting any way we can.
So just to address that, we do have amended, I believe there's a first and second on that amendment with regards to the $500, is that correct? I believe was there a seconder, Councillor Henderson's?
So through your worship, there was a mover and a seconder for Councillor Henderson's motion, which removes the $500.
Yes, yeah, thank you. And then if there's a referral post this, perhaps that can come back to staff with regards to taking a look at this future grant application pieces. So there is a motion on the floor, and is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed, if any? One opposed, and that's carried. Councillor Hunter, did you want to bring something forward at this time or later date with regards to this item in the grant piece?
No, just I'm happy with it as it is.
Okay, thank you. Next item.
Through your worship, item 7.3 is the Perth line 36.3 meter reserve for lands located at 16 Castner Street. There is a staff recommendation that the city of Stratford declare part 9 on plan 44R-6463 as public highway and dedicate it as forming part of Perth line 36. And that the application for zoning bylaw amendment Z06-25 submitted by Zelinka Preamo Limited on behalf of Countryside Developments on the lands known municipally as 16 Castner Street be approved for the following reasons. The request is consistent with the Provincial Planning Statement 2024 and conforms with the City of Stratford official plan, the recently adopted official plan amendment number 35. The request constitutes sound land use planning and is appropriate for the development of the lands, and public comments have been received, reviewed comprehensively, and appropriately addressed.
If you're mover for that item. Moved by Councillor Hunter, second by Councillor Knight. Discussion. Noted, all in favor? Opposed, if any, that's unanimously carried.
Item 7.4 is the McCarthy Road West and Orr Street 0.3 meter reserves. And there is a staff recommendation that the city declare the following lands as public highway and be dedicated as forming part of McCarthy Road West. Block 113 on plan 44M-44, Reserve O on registered plan number 470, and parts 2 and 3 on plan 44R-4795. And that the city of Stratford declare the lands as public highway and dedicate them as forming part of Orr Street, blocks 141 and 142 on plan 44M-75.
Thank you. Mover for that item. Moved by Councillor Knight, seconded by Councillor Burback. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any, that's unanimously carried.
Item 7.5 is a proclamation for Parkinson's Awareness Day, and there is a motion that Stratford City Council hereby proclaims April 11th, 2026 as Parkinson's Awareness Day in the city of Stratford.
Moved by Councillor Hunter, seconded by Councillor Mordova. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any, that's unanimous. Very clear.
Item 8 is business for which previous notice has been given and there's none noted. Moving to item 9, reports of the standing committees. Item 9.1 is the report of the Infrastructure, Transportation and Safety Committee. And as noted on the agenda, there is a motion that Kate Mulrooney be heard.
Moved by Councillor Burback, seconded by Councillor McCabe. All in favor? Opposed, if any, that's unanimously carried. Markers. Forest source and clear ready.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, members of the public, whoever else is here. Thank you for the opportunity to address council on the pilot study for area speed limit signage. And if you think you recognize me, yes you do. I have been here before delegating on a slightly different motion, which at the time requested that the 2026 budget reflect a commitment to reduce neighborhood speed limits to 40 kilometers an hour throughout the city. I see this proposed pilot project as a welcome first step. However, I want to invite you to consider going further and making a full commitment tonight to the whole multi-year project, rather than to a pilot project. I believe approving the whole project will result in significant cost savings for the city, and I'm going to explain why. First, I want to thank Taylor Crimpaw and his colleague Nathan Bottomon, who over the last 18 months have been generous in educating me about the Transportation Master Plan, which is a working document, Global Vision Zero goals for traffic fatalities, and the ins and outs of Stratford City planning and procedures. I also want to publicly thank Councillor Burback for constant support and advice and several cautions as I have proceeded with this initiative, and also to both Mayor Ritzma and Councillor McCabe, who met with me personally. Many of you other councillors have responded to my emails or phone calls and replied to me, and I'm very, very grateful to have learned that you all value participatory democracy so very highly. Thank you for being in conversation with me. The Stratford City Transportation Master Plan was approved by Council in 2023. The excellent vision that it presents of safety, mobility, and fluidity has 54 actions to be implemented in 3 phases. Action number 25 recommends reducing speed limits in all city neighborhoods to 40 kilometers an hour. It was included in the short-term goals section, which was to have been completed in the first 2 years. Was selected by the city's traffic engineers as attainable, reasonable, and effective. And it was brought forward to council in 2023 for immediate implementation. It is low-hanging fruit in a visionary 20-year plan. It is easy to implement and fairly uncontroversial. However, the initial projected cost of $235,000 was a sticking point for many of you councillors. So the idea of a smaller pilot project was raised last fall by Councillor. Early in 2026, the ITS subcommittee received the traffic engineer's memorandum on the proposed pilot project, and you all had a chance to look at it and ask questions earlier this month. I was at home with flu. The 2 significant items discussed were number 1, changing driver behavior, and number 2, evaluating the project. I would like to address both in a moment. Before I do, I'm going to draw your attention to a quite astounding fact which was not highlighted at the February meeting. In planning his report, Mr. Bottomup reached out to the City of Stratford Public Works Department and received a commitment from them to undertake the work themselves over a number of years rather than hiring independent contractors. This initiative not only keeps the tax dollars local, but also has reduced the total cost from $235,000 to between $60,000 and $70,000. This is a reduction of $170,000, or 72% of the initial projected cost. A $170,000 savings to the taxpayer of Stratford is astounding. And I think that both Mr. Bottomup and Mr. Crinklow, who is overseeing this project, should be heartily congratulated by this council and given generous Christmas bonuses. Please make a mental note of these revised costs, as I will be coming back to them. The cost of the citywide neighborhood speed limit project is now being reduced to roughly $65,000 if conducted over a 4 or 5 year timeline and completed in-house. This is 0.006% of the roads and traffic budget. Earlier, I said that the 2 significant items which you raised on February 9th are number 1, changing driver behavior, and number 2, evaluating the project. I'm going to address those quickly now because I believe that I can offer helpful ways to think about them. Your first concern is whether posting new signs and publicizing speed reduction will actually change driver behavior. And the answer is yes and no. In the yes column, studies around the world and across Canada, which I can provide if requested, show that most drivers drive at or lower than the posted speed limit. They also show that reducing the posted speed limits does bring down the average speed of vehicles in the area over time. There will always be those who drive faster than the posted limit, and they are dealt with in the same way no matter the speed, with proper monitoring and enforcement. Our Stratford City Police Department has already offered support for this project, so enforcement is looked at. So yes, it will work. But in the no column, the same studies show that drivers need consistency to manage expectations. If the speed in one neighborhood is 50 and in a nearby one it is 40, like in a pilot project area, this lack of consistency creates confusion and may lead to non-compliance. In short, drivers may get frustrated and do what they darn well please. In addition, other traffic calming measures like speed feedback boards, street bump outs, and painted lines, among other things, work alongside posted speed limits and increase driver compliance. Our traffic management plan includes all of these supplementary measures, but not necessarily in the pilot project area. So no, it will not immediately lead to universally lower driver speeds, especially since it encompasses only about 18% of the city. Other areas will have the current mishmash of neighborhood speeds. So this leads nicely to your second concern from February the 9th, which is how will we evaluate this project? The traffic engineer proposes, and now I'm quoting his words in the memorandum, before and after speed studies, a public education campaign, and resident surveys. The results will be reported to council along with recommendations on whether to continue, modify, or expand the 40-kilometer-an-hour program. End of quote. Studies from other jurisdictions around the world already overwhelmingly support the connection between lower traffic speeds and lower injuries sustained. Studies also show that compliance increases over time as habits are formed and expectations are clear. A relatively short-term program in a relatively small area of the city is unlikely to produce compelling statistical results. The pilot project will conclude roughly 2 years from now. Speed studies and survey results may be inconclusive, and hours of staff time and council time will have been consumed. So what is to be done? I know how important it is to you that projects undertaken by the city be well researched, well supported, and grounded in good data. I am not suggesting that you disregard data. I am suggesting that you trust the data already gathered in other jurisdictions because it clearly shows changes in driver behavior over time when a whole city approach is used. 29 municipalities in Ontario have already implemented or are implementing reductions in speed to 40 kilometers an hour, and they are already reporting driver compliance and lower speeds and fewer collisions in those areas. If you agree that these results are convincing, then you can release your traffic engineer from long hours of toil, planning studies, gathering data, writing reports, so that he can work on other projects, saving city staff both time and money. Using a pilot project model implies that there is uncertainty about proceeding with the whole project, and that data are needed to attain certainty. However, there is already enough certainty to proceed with a citywide plan if you agree that results from other jurisdictions are convincing. So I invite you tonight to approve the project as outlined in the motion before you, but not to approve it as a pilot study. Make it phase 1 of a multi-year project, probably 4 or 5 years, each year of which will only cost the taxpayers of the city of Stratford $11,500. This is surely a much smaller amount than the amount it will cost in staff time and resources to report on the proposed pilot study. The petition posted by Climate Momentum and Cycle Stratford on lowering neighborhood speed limits and harmonizing them was very popular, and it quickly got over 200 signatures in just a few public events. This shows you that this is a popular choice. We know from other jurisdictions that it is an effective choice. I ask you, as you talk amongst yourselves and reach a decision this evening, to move forward to safer speeds on Stratford streets by amending this to phase 1 of an approved citywide project to be implemented over 4 or 5 years.
Any questions from council at this time? Thank you very much for these.
No problem.
That's, I don't know.
Through your worship, item 9.1 is the neighborhood area speed limit pilot study, and there is a motion that the report of the Infrastructure, Transportation and Safety Committee dated February 23rd be adopted as printed.
So move it. Motion. Well, Councilor Burback. Will move. Second. Councilor McCabe, discussion. Councilor Hunt.
Yeah, I still have the same objections to the pilot study. I'm more intrigued if we can get it cheaper to implement it across the whole city. Especially if we can get some level of enforcement and put money into traffic calming measures. Because I've read most of the research that was shared by our delegate, and she provided a lot of it to me. So on its own, the speed limit sign changes they're not effective. It needs the wholesome approach. And I'd rather our money be spent as wisely as possible. And 11,000 for a pilot project, I don't know that. I think the results are going to be consistent with the research, which is that I don't think we're going to show much. And I'm concerned that we're making a decision based more on feelings than on research. I'm in favor of implementing traffic calming measures and enforcing the speed limits. I don't know that this on its own is enough. So that's my
Go ahead, please.
Thank you. I do support the motion on the floor. My question for staff is if this is approved, would council be then able to switch this to like a phased in citywide, like from the pilot? Like, if we go ahead with the pilot, are we stuck with a pilot project, or can we change that into a phase one, or do we have to do that at this stage?
No, because really, your worship, certain pilot is just words. So at any point, council could just decide that this is going to be making for forever.
Thank you.
Councilor McCabe.
Yeah, through the chair, I was interested in the fact that of this interior staff resources being used for this over a multi-year approach, saving us money. So this to me just at the beginning of that process.
Thank you. Other comments, Councilor Manager, Burback and Harrison.
through the mayor. I'm in favor of the pilot project, but I would like to see the data come back to see if there's what value and what impact it really has before we make this decision of rolling it out through New York City. And then taking the other data that we have researched in other rooms and seeing if it does make sense. So do the pilot, I'm in favor, but I'd like to see the data after.
Councilor Burback and then
Thank you, through the chair. A few things. I think it's a great project because it's not just changing signs. So we have talked to the police and we have their agreement for enforcement. There's also an opportunity to look at infrastructure changes as well in that area so that we can bolster up the project, allow people to be more successful in following the speed limit. There is also some funding possibly that's becoming available through the province for safe community safety zones, putting in infrastructure. So if we have this project going, then we have the ability then to add infrastructure to this area so that we can have a more fulsome chance of success. The other thing that I would point out, pilot versus phase one, no matter what, staff is going to evaluate this program. So I think, you know, that we will be looking at how did it work and should we be expanding it to the rest of the city. So I think we'll perhaps leaving it as called a pilot study with the understanding that it can be expanded into the rest of the city if it's successful. The other thing that I would mention is that as far as confusion goes, from going from one neighborhood to the other, we have a hodgepodge, a mishmash already of 40, 50, all through our residential neighborhoods. And my argument would be that this actually makes it much more simple for people, especially once it's citywide. Then we all know on a residential street, we're supposed to be driving 40. We don't have to worry about, oh, what sign did I just pass? So I think that the completion of this study will create a safer city for us.
Councilor
Well, I'm rethinking, the pilot project, because I'm thinking, okay, so I'm coming down Hibernia Street in the one section, and then when I cross over, I guess it ends at Warrington. But then you can go over to the next street, maybe in 50, and like, would it make more sense for it just to put signs on the outside of the city saying it's 40 kilometers an hour in our city? Like, I just think it's gonna be, and plus the fact is like, I don't know whether you're gonna get a lot of neighborhoods saying, in that area saying, why is it only our section of the city, not the whole city? Where I am. Not that I'm in favor of the 40 kilometers myself, but it has been proven that it reduces accidents and less people get injured. You don't get hit as hard when you hit at 40 and you're at 50, right?
Do you want to respond to the idea of the city signs at the perimeter of the city?
Yep, through your worship, I can provide a couple of comments, I guess, for this. Essentially, when we first started out on this journey a few years back, it was fairly novel throughout the province. Effectively now, I think roughly 40% of the municipalities that are over 40,000 people have us implemented in the municipality, so it's widespread use. Very few have it citywide. The reason why it's not citywide is probably more costly with signage. I think the areas that are not 40 kilometers per hour, so like in our cable road, so the amount of signage actually is about the same or more. And it doesn't match what other municipalities do. The majority of us probably doing the neighborhood zones, and so that would add to the confusion, so cost and confusion for what the rest of the province.
Thank you. Councilor, go ahead.
So are most of the cities just doing a pilot section? Is that what you're saying? Or they're just picking neighborhoods only?
Through your worship, just neighborhoods.
Oh, okay.
Councilor.
Thank you. Through the chair, I was also going to answer that question, but my understanding is that because it's not part of the Traffic Act, basically the Traffic Act says that residential streets are 50, and if they're not, you have to mark them otherwise. So the province does not allow municipalities to change the sign that you're seeing on the way in saying all residential streets are 50. We're not allowed to do it the easy way because it's not part of the Traffic Act just yet.
Councilor, did I say your hand? Go ahead.
I did, through the mayor. I guess I have the same concern. Like, studying it, I don't think is the best approach. If we're going to implement this, I'd rather we just implement it, especially if the cost can be reduced to $50,000 or $60,000. I'm actually inclined to make a deferral on this, or to move a deferral to get a more fulsome report of what the cost would be to just implement it across the city. My concern is we get to the end of this study period, and my belief is the results are going to show no difference. What do we do at that point? If we're just going to go ahead and implement it, I'd almost rather we implement it citywide. And part of my objection to that was the $250 million cost that was originally presented to us.
Councilor Lee.
I think your reason I changed, so I'm gonna wait here. I believe we're all on the same page. The reason why we want to do this is for safety of our community. Hard stop. We want our community to be safe. The reason why, and I've noted this before, whether it was on this term or previous term, why I didn't feel like this has a great success is due in part to enforcement. I would like to just take a moment and just run a parallel here. I think we'd all agree that secondhand smoke is also a hazard to our community. When we go outside our city hall here, there are also signs that say, do not smoke here. There are signs that say, do not smoke because this is our rule. Reason why that I feel like I'm in high school and going through the smokers crowd is because there are people smoking right in front of our city hall. Why are people doing that? Because it's not being enforced. Signs make us feel good, but they don't do anything in reality to change behaviors. If you're gonna change behaviors, you have to have a bite to your bark. So unless we can get the province to agree to let us do means to put a sin tax on people's behavior, this is all just an exercise in speed. So I'm not supporting this.
Councillor Burrow.
Through the chair, just a couple things. We do know that over time, if we implement something like this in places that haven't implemented, people's behavior does change over time. So maybe 2 years is too short for us to see their behavior change. But they do change over time, and we have heard from the police that they will help with enforcement. The good part about having certain neighborhoods done one at a time is that the police can then focus on that neighborhood. We can focus education in that neighborhood to hopefully get the results that we're looking for. So I don't think I think it's worth moving forward. And I also somewhat agree with Councillor Hunter. If we switch it from a pilot study, if those of us who've made this motion change it up, so that this is phase 1, as was suggested. I'd rather see that than a deferral. I do think we know what the cost would be if we switched it to phase 1 and rolled it out over the city over 4 to 5 years. And I'll ask Mr. Krinkla if you have some numbers on that.
Through chair, I don't have precise numbers on there, but the numbers were provided probably fairly close to what the actual cost is. So you're looking at that $60,000 to $80,000 range from this at this point. The one part I would say is 4 years probably on the aggressive side. It all depends on staff availability, even resources to install the site that's required. But like 5 or 6 years might be more reasonable for staff for that. The rest of that.
Just on the enforcement side, I think our current police services all struggle to enforce with the resources that they have for traffic, fines and speeding and what have you. Technology would have been a good one. Now that's been taken away. We have other options with red light camera. I think technology will be more valuable in those areas, but the residential street, I'm not sure how much resources our police services are going to have to just manage traffic.
Other comments? Yes, Director Crimbons.
Yeah, there's just one comment to enforcement. The chief of police and I have been working on ways or mechanisms to provide resources we can, but it's still a ways out, but we have to have a report to council about how we can best provide resources needed for targeted enforcement, recognizing there is more of a need and just having it to that point. We don't put it in ready for council to see it, but so we're planning. So it's a work in progress.
Councillor Hunt.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick question for Director Krinkla. With new repairs to roads, are we starting to implement traffic calming measures? Is that part of our plan?
Yeah, through your worship, every time we do any kind of repaving or restructuring, we look at the various master plans, the recommendations contained therein. And generally, that's when we try to apply the recommendations or the transportation master plan. We also do look at other options or considerations that are part of it that the city has an applicable installation source for transportation construction.
Thank you. Councillor.
Thank you through the chair. Just a note on the infrastructure piece as well. The infrastructure that would be put in would need to have an area that was a lower speed limit. In other words, you wouldn't want to put a speed bump on a road that's 50 because people are going to wreck their car. So, they come together in order for us to ask people to reduce their speed by putting in infrastructure. We actually need to reduce the speed limit to let them know you're supposed to be going 40. And if you don't, you might be in danger of hurting your car.
Just through your worship, great point, Councilor Berta. In the previous report provided by the manager or engineer, he did list the number of traffic calming measures you can have. And they significantly increased what it's at a 40 per hour rate. Certain measures you can have at a 50 per hour rate, so it does open up our availability of those two options.
There is a motion on the floor. If there's nothing further, I'm going to call a question on the motion. All in favor? Opposed to any? To oppose to that's carried. Next item.
Your worship, item 10 is notice of intent and there's none scheduled. Moving to item 11, reading of the bylaws. There are 4 bylaws listed for consideration as follows. Item 11.1 is the zoning bylaw amendment application for 16 Castor Street. Item 11.2 is to dedicate part of First Line 36 as public highway. Item 11.3 is to dedicate a part of McCarthy Road as public highway, and item for bylaw 11.4 is to dedicate a part of 4th Street as public highway. These bylaws can be taken collectively upon unanimous vote of council present.
Okay, moved by Councilor McKee, second by Councilor Berman. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed to any, that's unanimously carried. Move for first and second. Moved by Councilor Hunter, second by Councilor Knight. Any discussion? I'll call the question, all in favor? Opposed to any, that's unanimously carried. And moving for third and final, Councilor Anderson will move, second by Councilor B. Discussion. Seeing none, call the question, all in favor? Opposed to any, that's unanimous and carried.
Your worship, item 12 is a consent agenda. Are there any items listed on the consent agenda to be considered by council?
Any items? And then that will include the one item we addendum, correct?
Through your worship, yes, that's correct.
Not noted. Next item.
Item 13 is new business. Are there any new business items?
Councilor Knight.
Through the mayor, as many of us heard that police chief Skinner is retired, just wanted to kind of do a thank you for his dedication to the service of the city of Stratford. And the leadership, integrity, and the commitment he served to our community and made a lasting impact and wish him well and retirement.
Thank you, and I'll follow up all those comments after almost 4 decades in police service. Certainly, this was a difficult decision for Chief Skinner, but he certainly expressed on a number of occasions with gratitude the opportunity to serve is in the community where he's born and raised. So certainly, we're blessed to have him, and we wish him well on his retirement. So thank you. Next item.
Item 14, there's no standing committees, but our next regular council meeting will be held on March 9th in council chamber. Item 15 is confirmatory bylaw, and this bylaw requires first and second reading and third and final.
Second, mover, Councilor back, move second by Councilor Hunter. Any discussion? Favor? Full committee, mention it was carried. And third and final. Moved by Councilor Niger, second by Councilor E. Any discussion? All in favor? Any? That's unanimously carried. And our final item of this evening's session is motion to adjourn. Moved by Councilor McCabe, second by Councilor Lobo. All in favor? And we are adjourned. Thank you.